So I've been reading a lot about the history of communism and socialism recently, and it's kind of confusing. Like, what's the difference between communism and socialism? How do they feed into each other? Why are these things different? And there are a lot of really good, solid definitions that are theoretical and this, that, and the other thing. But practically speaking, I kind of think that what communism is socialism plus a U.S. invasion. Hyper US aggression tends to morph and make communism more authoritarian, more nasty, more vicious version of socialism that it feels like, or perhaps it does need to survive against US aggression. This may sound ridiculous, but like, think about it. Like, the Soviet Union, as it was being established, was invaded by the United States. Obviously, I don't need to explain Korea, Vietnam, or Laos. Those are all very straightforward U.S. invasions, U.S. aggression. Cuba was invaded by U.S. proxy forces in 1961. It was primarily like economic aggression. China fought a war, the Korean War, against the United States. So if you look at all of the communist countries that still survive today, there used to be more that were not directly invaded by the United States. But if you look at all surviving communist countries, you've got Vietnam, Laos, North Korea, China, and Cuba. Like, that's pretty much all of them, right? And so basically, communism is socialism plus a US invasion. Obviously, that's not a complete definition, but I think as a practical definition, it explains a lot of the world, the history of the Cold War, and sort of what's been going on. This is prompted by that realization that like every country that has held on to communism, every country that is still communist, has gotten there through a U.S. invasion, which would imply that perhaps our attempt to be as aggressive as possible to the hardcore socialist or communist ish government in Venezuela is perhaps counterproductive and actually is guaranteed to perpetuate that regime and make it worse rather than make it more communist or whatever, rather than actually change anything for the better.